Hey gents, today I want to talk through my best approximation of how Watch Gang makes money, how they deliver thousands of watches every month for lower than the retail price you could purchase them for, and then also how every Tuesday they give away a tag and every Friday they give away a Rolex. Also a disclaimer up front, I don't have any insider Watch Gang information. This is just with my understanding of the retail industry and my knowledge of setting up a company and then also getting Watch Gang and watching them grow over the last few months. This is how I've pieced together what it should look like. And if you enjoy videos like this, let me know down in the comments. Also give a thumbs up and subscribe to make sure videos like this keep coming, and let's dive in. First, I want to do like a crash course on how watches are manufactured and priced and how retailers work in this world. For this example, we're going to use a Rolex Explorer 2. We're going to use some simplified numbers because there aren't exact figures out there. This is all kind of put together to give you an idea of what this is like, but we're trying to get the fundamentals of this process, just to get a basic understanding of how a watch goes from conception and raw materials to being on your wrist. So let's go through a very quick and simplified version of how a Rolex Explorer 2 is made. First, you have the development. So the development and R&D costs of developing the movement and the design of the Rolex. Now, this is where all of the value of Rolex is. It is in their in-house movements and their precious materials that they then use for the watch. And figures are all over the place. No one's going to have exact figures on this, but it's going to be multi-millions of dollars. It's the old famous adage of, the first pill costs $10 million and it's 10 for a penny afterwards. That's the type of thing you're looking at with development of a movement. First you have development, and then you have the cost of goods, which are like the raw materials, the duties, the taxes, all of the stuff associated with actually building the physical watch. And from most estimates out there would put that at about $500, which is the cost that it takes for Rolex to manufacture a watch. And then the development costs are amortized over all of the watches they deliver, which are millions. And so you do have some economies of scale there. But so you've got your development costs, and then you have your cost that Rolex has of the hard goods. So after your cost, you then have the wholesale price, which is what a wholesaler or an authorized dealer in this case will be purchasing the watch for from Rolex, and that is about $3,000 on a Rolex Explorer 2. So if I'm running John's Watch Shop, which is an authorized dealer of Rolex, I can go to Rolex, say I want to buy 500 units of the Rolex Explorer at $3,000, and then I take on that risk of the inventory, and we're going to come back to that because, well, that'll talk about the retailer side of things, but that delta between the $3,000 wholesale price and the $500 cost of goods sold is Rolexes Margin. So that is what pays for all of the manufacturing, all of the golf and racing sponsorships, all of that stuff is Rolexes Margin, and then the retailer is responsible after that. So then after the wholesale price, you have the consumer price, which is what you will pay for when you go in, and that's about $5,000. Now you can get some discounts. If you have old inventory, they'll discount that kind of thing, but that margin then becomes the retailer's margin. And when a lot of companies talk about cutting out the middleman, that's who they're talking about cutting out. They're trying to get you closer to that wholesale price. It's not always quite there, and that margin in this case pays for all of the jobs that are created by the retailers. It pays for salaries and health insurance. It pays for the physical space of the retailer, and it essentially keeps the lights on. Now, things that reduce that margin for the retailer is this inventory problem, and this is key when we talk about Watch Gang. So if I am John's Watch Shop and I'm buying inventory from Rolex, I'm buying 500 units, I am then saying I'm going to sell these 500 units. Now, at the end of a season or at the end of a few years, if I still have those inventory units sitting in my store, that is what's eating up my margin because you have carried inventory costs. But then if you want to, say, get rid of those, you either have to heavily discount them or you can sell them back to Rolex, and then that reduces your margin because you held on to those for a year. It reduces Rolex margin because they have to go through the process of getting those back and redistributing them into their network. And that inventory problem is really what's hurting a lot of retailers right now in the internet world, but we're going to get back to that when we get to Watch Gang. So we're going to take each of those figures and it's going to apply to all watches. It's not going to be the same proportions. Seiko's not going to have the same margins as a Rolex, but any brand that you would see on Watch Gang is always going to have their development cost, the cost of goods to manufacture, they're going to have their wholesale price, and then their consumer price. Whether you're talking about this Heritor that I got this month from Watch Gang, Deep Blue, Original Grain, any of those watch brands you see on Watch Gang, they deliver watches that are worth as low as $50 up to $2,000 or more based on that Centum program that they have in Watch Gang. So they deliver from the low end to the luxury space. So with all that established, how does Watch Gang make money and deliver watches if you're paying $99 a month for watches that are worth $150 to $500? I think the key to this one is understanding that Watch Gang is essentially a glorified retailer. So it's a retailer with an internet twist. Previously, if I wanted to open John's Watch Shop, there were these huge fixed costs of opening that physical store. You had the physical space, you had salaries, you had taxes, you had to build the space itself, and then you had to take on inventory, which also costs a lot of money. So that initial startup could be considerable. And like I said before, that inventory could really eat your margins because you can't really control, if I'm running John's Watch Shop, there's so many external factors to the market, to the economy, to your foot traffic in the store, to weather and everything else. You can't really control how many inventory your unit's gonna sell, so you're really just guessing to say, I could sell 500 units or so, but you don't really know. And that inventory really becomes the make or break point for a retailer. If you go to Rolex and you buy 500 units, you can't sell them, you only sell 50, you have to sell them back inventory units. Next year, they're not gonna give you as good of a price because they know that your volumes aren't that high, and it's just a real mess. However, if you're Watch Gang, you have thousands of guys that are signed up to get watches every single month so that you know as Watch Gang, you can sell exactly this many number of units, which is where that is key. That allows Watch Gang to go to a company and negotiate incredible prices on the watches themselves. So in a perfect example of this month I was given this Heritor watch from Watch Gang. I paid $99 for the subscription, and this was listed on the website for $800 on the Heritor website. Now, talking about the wholesale price, let's say the wholesale price on this watch was $200. Watch Gang would be able to go to this brand if they have a ton of inventory sitting in their shelves and say, hey, look, I'll buy exactly this number of units for this exact price. Let's say it's $70 per unit. Watch Gang can do this because they can go to dozens of brands, and because Watch Gang is not saying they're going to deliver a personalized watch subscription kind of like Stitch Fix does, they're just saying they're going to deliver thousands of watches. And it takes a lot of logistics and planning. Some of the Swiss watches that I've gotten from them ship directly from Switzerland, and they have to go through customs and everything else. And so there is a lot involved in this, but because Watch Gang is able to say exactly the number of units they'll sell, they're able to negotiate a great price on the watches themselves. And every watch brand will be a little bit different. Let's say on this Heritor, they were able to get each unit for $70, then they get the $99 subscription from the user. That becomes Watch Gang's margin. You multiply that by the 10 to 20,000 subscribers that they have in their Watch Gang subscription, but then, there's also the tiers, so you can see immediately how it starts to balloon. And because Watch Gang is a subscription company, they have recurring revenue coming in every month, and this is something I talked about in my Tiege Hanley breakdown, where I talked about kind of the business model of Tiege Hanley. Because Watch Gang has this consistent recurring revenue every month, they carry a much higher valuation as a company, so every dollar they bring in is really worth 7 to 10x what the actual dollar they're bringing in, especially if they have a very low churn rate. And so that's all very technical, but really it gives Watch Gang more leeway to either go borrow money or to then say to these companies, hey, we have this large of a base, let's work this deal together. And so it gives Watch Gang a very powerful position in that world. Now for the Tag and Rolex giveaway, I don't have any exact details, but my best guess is that they work with two companies in order to do those giveaways. With the Rolex giveaway specifically, they work with Becker Time. Now Becker Time is not heavily advertised on Watch Gang, but as we talked about with having this powerful position in the market, recurring revenue, lots of audience and lots of subscribers, let's say they get 500,000 to 1 million unique visits a month on their website. There's a tiny logo down in the bottom of Watch Gang's website that says Rolex giveaway sponsored by Becker Time. Now Becker Time could pay for that placement, but likely they're not because they're providing Watch Gang with that Rolex every week. The Rolexes that Watch Gang does give away every week are vintage ones from Becker Time, and they're worth between $2,000 to $5,000 from the ones that I've seen. So let's say it costs Becker Time, I don't know, $15,000 a month in order to do those giveaways. The banner on Watch Gang's site for having that much traffic, it's not that bad for like a really high quality, really prominently placed type of banner. It's hard to say if Becker Time is actually making any money off of that promotion, but if enough people hear the Becker Time thing, they go and they buy straps or they end up buying their Rolex through there. It's really just a marketing expense for Becker, and then it's a great marketing promotion for Watch Gang to give and to bring subscribers in. Because if you talk to people that know Watch Gang, for the most part, they say, oh, is that the company that gives away a Rolex? And so that becomes a very powerful marketing tool. It gives Becker a great platform to get their name out there if they're trying to establish themselves as a great vintage online company. And if they are a medium size, if they're making a few $1 million a year in top line, a marketing budget that is $100,000 a year, those proportions work out. All right, gents, so there you have it. That is my best approximation of what Watch Gang's business model is. If you have any thoughts on that, or if you have any actual information, I'd love to either speak to you or you can comment below. You can also reach out at @_Kavalier on Twitter and Instagram. Love to hear from you guys over there. That's also where I put some behind the scenes stuff, post some more of my watches. And if you have any questions about Watch Gang, I've been subscribed to them for almost a year. I started off, I got the original one first, and then I stepped up to their black tier, and I've even gotten some of the platinum. I'm gonna cover the platinum ones here. I got some of those hanging over on the side. And if you have any suggestions on companies I should take a look at, any interesting business models you'd like to be broken down, every Wednesday I try to cover the industry as a whole, whether it's clothing or watches or something else. And I've been excited to do this one for a while. It's been sitting in my queue, and I've got a lot more of these for this year. I'm looking forward to it. I thank you. If you're still watching, you are one of my awesome fans who watches to the end, and I could not be more appreciative. And I hope I don't sound like a broken record for always thanking you guys, but I really appreciate it. So suggestions, comments, questions, queries, anything else, please do that below. You can also reach out on Twitter. Until next time, gents, this is the Kavalier.